Hi, crafty friends. Melissa Minor here. Thanks so much for joining me on my YouTube channel. Today, I'm creating a layout, but I'm also playing along with some friends for using up our acrylic stash. This is our acrylic stash busting. Be sure to check out the description box below for links to all my friends that are playing along in today's YouTube hop. I'm also creating a layout for the Allison Davis Scrapbook Generation design team where I am using an Allison Davis sketch. I'll tell you more about that once we get into the layout. All right, I have two photos today that I want to scrapbook, and I went ahead and matted these on some pattern paper. This picture is of me and Dale, and we had went to a pumpkin patch, and then here's another one of us at the pumpkin patch. Now I print all my photos at home. I have the Epson PictureMate 400. So the larger photo there is 5x3, and then the other one is 3x3. And then I cut a couple photo mats. Now the paper that I'm using for today's layout is from Hip Kit Club. This is the October 2025 Hip Kit Club collection. So I am using an Allison Davis sketch. This is one of her two photo sketches. I will leave her sketch listed down below in the description box in case you're interested. And if you've never purchased one of her sketches, they come in like bundles of 10. So this bundle is the two photo sketches. So you receive 10 different layout sketches for using two photos, which I love scrapbooking two photos at a time. So I'm not giving you the measurements of these papers because it is a paid sketch, but I will leave it linked down below in case you're interested in that download. And they're only a few dollars. They are very minimal. She is so talented with her design. So I just love them. And then what I do is I print out the sketches and then I put them into little protective sleeves and then in a binder. All right, so here's a little something about how I want my layout to go. And this is coming together very quickly because I'm using that sketch. I've got this word pumpkins, and that is from that October 2025 Hip Kit Club. So that's like a chipboard piece, but it's an ink resist, which I have something in mind for that. And then for my acrylic stash busting, I'm bringing in this gather title, and this is from Bramble Fox, and it kind of has like that like deep burgundy color that's also in the color of the pattern paper there in the background. So I really like the way this is going. I got to be sure that I don't put the word pumpkins over top of my little truck. But then in Allison's sketch, what she shows is you can use a 1-inch circle punch and you can make a scalloped border. So let me show you how I did that here on this page. So what I did is I cut a bunch of these 1-inch scallops, and then I'm going to take my scissors and then just snip them in half. Now when you're on the edges, so the very corners, you want to leave the full circle there, but then all the other ones are just going to be half circles, and it's going to make a scallop border. Now I know some of my friends use their Cricut and make a scallop border, but this is such an easy way to make this scallop border. So let me kind of show you how this works. So I've already cut some in half and I've got them over to the side, and you just place them around here so you can kind of see. Let me get them at the right height, and I'll just keep going around and around and around the page. Now I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because one thing that I want to do is I also want to do some stitching on this layout, and I want to do some ink resisting on the word pumpkins. So we were at the pumpkin patch, so I want to make sure that I go ahead and do that ink technique. So let me move a little bit of this out of the way so that we can get to this word pumpkins, and I'm going to actually bring in some paints. Now here's the floss that I want to use for my stitching, and this is number 722, and it's like this light orangey peachy color, and I think it's going to be perfect for this layout. All right, so let me set this aside. So I've got some Shimmer's paints here, and this is a colorings, and the color is Tangy Tangerine. Now, when I started this, I wasn't sure what this was going to do. And let me tell you, if you're not using Shimmer's paints to paint these ink resist titles, you are missing out. This is so easy, and the color is just absolutely gorgeous. So I'm just spraying a few pumps on here, and then I'm just going to let this set aside to dry. Now, I do want to mention that I'm also on the Shimmers Paints design team, so if you ever place an order on the Shimmers Paints website, you can add my name, Melissa Minor, to the notes section of your order, and Shimmers will send you a free paint. All right, let me get to the stitching. So I'm going to do my stitching off camera, but I am going to poke my lines here, or my little dots. I've got a little piercing tool and a foam mat underneath my layout, and I'm just going to make about 4 lines here, and then I'm going to do some stitching. Now I'm going to try a stitching technique that I haven't ever tried before, and I believe it's called the lace stitch. So voila, here we go. I already finished my stitching. Now I ran out of embroidery thread kind of in the middle, so I kind of taped it off, but it's going to be behind my photo, so you're not even going to see that. But basically what you do is you do a back stitch, and then you go from the right side to the left, like under it, and then under it again to the other side, and then you just kind of weave in and out, kind of like you're lacing your shoe. So I did the same stitching technique on both sides here, but it looks a little different because for the 2 lines that were closer together, I intertwined them. So I went up through the bottom left up to the right, and then, you kind of zigzag, and then you go back down. I will do a whole nother video on stitching. If you're interested, leave me a comment down below and let me know if you're interested in that. I believe it's called the lace stitch, if I'm not mistaken. So I will look it up and make sure that I post that video. But let me know if you're interested in that. All right, I'm backing my photos with just a little piece of cardboard here. And I'm making sure I put them where I want them and to cover up my little boo-boo stitching in the center. I'm using some wet tacky glue to make sure I get some good adhesive on here. And I want this one kind of wonky over here on the right side. And I want to push it over quite a bit to the right because I want that word pumpkins to fit right in there. Now the word pumpkin is going to overlap my photo, and that's okay. Check out how beautiful this title piece is after it dried. I am in love with this. I think it is so gorgeous. Again, the color that I used was called Tangy Tangerine, and I think it just matches this collection perfectly. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and adhere this centerpiece down to my layout. Again, I'm using some liquid glue so I can make sure I get a good stick to all of this. So I'm going to kind of center it here. And then I'm going to start placing my circles all around the edges to give myself that little scalloped border. So I will only glue a couple of these down on camera, and then I won't make you watch me do all of this. I'll do most of the gluing of these off camera, but it's super easy. Like I said, it's one solid one in the corners and then the half ones on the side. The hardest part for me was just picking them up. So I did find some reverse tweezers here, and that's going to help me get a hold of them. And then I'm just going to stick them all around. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is I did distress the edges of all my papers. Now, that's not something that Allison Davis shows in her sketches or anything. I just love that little distressed feel. I feel like that's more my style. So I did distress the edges, but if you wanted a cleaner look, you wouldn't have to distress the edges of your pattern paper. I did not distress the edges of the scalloped border. It's kind of hard to distress the edges on a circle. But there we go. I've got all of my circles here, and I think that looks really nice. Now I'm realizing that when I put this title down that I am going to need to use a little bit of foam tape. Where that P overlaps the photo, it needs to be popped up. But I don't want to put the foam on the back of the letter P. I just want it on all of the other letters. So I've got this foam tape here from scrapbook.com, and I'm just going to take some little strips here, and I'm going to fit a few onto the back of these letters, and then I will be able to glue this down. So I put the foam tape on the back of the letters, again, not on that P that overlaps the photo, but on most of the rest of them. I think I did like every other letter. So I've got my other title here, Gather. That's my acrylic title piece from Bramble Fox. And when I glue acrylic title pieces down, I like to use this Nuvo Deluxe glue. I find that it dries clear and it has a really strong adhesive on it. So I'm going to use a little bit of that. My bottle is almost empty, so I only got a few drops onto there, but I think it looks okay. And actually, I've got a couple of these little leaves that were also in a Bramble Fox Box Plus subscription kits, I believe is where these came from, kind of recently. So I'm going to go ahead and glue a couple of these down. You know what? I think I changed my mind here on where I want that leaf. I'm going to pull that back up in just a moment. I do want some pumpkins here. Now, all this ephemera, it was included in the Hip Kit Club. So I'm going to pull through some of these. Now, this little cute wood piece that says pumpkin patch, that's from Bramble Fox. I'm going to kind of dry fit these pieces in here and kind of get an idea of how I want things. So I'm going to glue the large pumpkin down because I know I want that in the back. And then I'm going to stagger these other pumpkins here off to the side of my photo. So what's crazy is for the last 2 years, Dale and I went to a pumpkin patch, but we didn't actually purchase our pumpkins at the pumpkin patch. But we did go and visit, and it's always a good time. And it makes for some really great photos. I love when they have these nice little photo opportunities. So one Sunday afternoon, we had went and took a few photos. And this place is actually right alongside the highway. And, you know, with your phones now, it's really easy to edit photos. There was a truck that was actually on the highway right behind us. And at first when I saw my photo on the camera, I was like, oh no, it completely ruined our photo. And then I remembered you can just push your finger on it, hold it down, and boom, it vanishes like magic. So that's what I did to this photo. I did edit out the pickup truck that was driving down the highway. So while I've been talking, you'll see that I have taken some of the leaves that were included in the ephemera pack, and I'm just placing them along my layout here, just kind of making them look like they're falling down the page. Allison's sketch kind of had some design down the side, so my interpretation of that is for these falling leaves down the side. Now, I'm not completely sure on the placement of these, so I'm only going to use some tape runner in case I want to pull these up and maybe move these around in a moment. So I'm going to use tape runner on that, but items that I'm sure of, I'm going to go ahead and use my liquid glue. Now, I told you my Nuvo Deluxe glue is running low, so I am using tacky glue for these other leaves, and I wanted to make sure I included them on the page. And I wanted to place them more of in a triangle. And the reason for that is because I needed that color in 3 places on the layout, I felt like. Now, these were really cool that were included in the Hip Kit Club. These were some little stickers, like banner stickers, and they're almost like a fabric. And I knew I wanted to use this banner one. So I'm going to go ahead and stretch a banner across the left-hand side here. And then, let me see, I kind of want the yellow. I want it to start on a yellow and end on a yellow. I'm going to snip this with my scissors, and then I'm going to see if I have enough. I would really like to do another row with that banner. And yeah, I think that's going to work. So I'm going to go ahead and place this down. Now that I have it on the page, I don't know. I don't know if I really like that. I'm going to try to lift it up here in a moment, and it's not going anywhere. In fact, if I try to lift it up, it's going to rip my page. So it's here to stay. So I'm going to have to embrace it. I do like the way it looks. It looks really cute. All right, so I've got the majority of my layout done. Now I want to look through some of the puffy stickers that were included in the Hip Kit Club and see what I can find to embellish my page. I found a couple wordy bits. I love the colors of these. This one says warm and cozy, and this other one that I'm going to pull off here is going to say life is good. And there were kind of like some journaling strips in the sketch, so you could actually add journaling strips up here, but I don't really have a big story. I mean, this was just 2025 at the Autumn Harvest Farms where we looked at pumpkins. So there's not a story for me to journal about. So warm and cozy and life is good works perfect in this spot. Now I'm noticing these little puffy dots, and I'm wondering if I can add them up here on this banner strip to kind of give this some extra texture up here. So I'm going to take a few of these puffy dots, and place them on this banner, and I really, really like the way that looks. So I'm going to get 5 up here on the top, and then I'm going to start on the bottom, and I'm quickly going to realize that I don't quite have enough to finish the bottom row. So what I'm going to do to fix that is I'm going to go in on the other puffy sticker sheet, and there's some larger ones. So I'm counting here thinking, oh, maybe there's enough, but there's really not. So I'm going to place all of the rest that I have on this sheet onto the layout. And then I am going to have to end up picking them up. And how I'm going to fix this is I'm going to do every other one. So I'm going to start with a small one, and then I'm going to go to a large one, which you can see up there I did finished off camera. To fill in a little gap, down here to the lower right of that top photo, I found this cute little owl, and it's the perfect color, and Dale loves owls, and it's got like a little leaves and things on its head, so I thought that was perfect to add over there. It's super cute. I thought about adding another puffy sticker above our heads, but I just thought it was too much. I'm going to pick up a leaf and try to put that on the layout, but again, I think it's just too much, and I better stop right here because I don't think it needs anything else. So that is really going to finish up today's layout. I really, really like the way this turned out. If you've enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button. If you're new, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. I will have links to all the products that I used in today's video. Again, I have Allison's sketch on here. And be sure to check out the description box below for all my friends that are playing along for today's acrylic stash busting YouTube hop. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!